Hello, architecture students. What I'm going to do today is go over a video showing you how to draft a wall frame. Okay, but first, before I do that, as we're drafting this wall frame, I'm going to go back over how to set up a document. We did this early in the beginning of the year, but we always need reminders. So I'm going to do that over the next couple of videos, is just kind of take you through setting up a drafting document first. Okay, so if we want to set one up, of course, we're just going to click on New to start a new document. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and close that. So the first step we want to do is we want to come over here and we want to change down at the bottom right of the screen. We want to change decimal, where it says decimal. Click on the drop down triangle and turn it to architectural. And then for this type of drafting that we're going to do, because we're doing a detail, is we're going to draw this one in 1.5 inches equals 1. So come down here, you'll find 1.5, okay, equals 1 foot. And we're going to click on that one. Now we're in the right scale. Okay, now we're going to come up to our annotation panel right here. We're going to click on the word annotation to get a drop down. And we're going to start with our text first. We're going to click on the text icon there. We're going to, in this dialog box, we're going to set it for annotative. Okay, because when I click on new, it's actually going to give me a copy of annotative. Okay, and I just like to use the annotative text style. So I'm going to click on new, and I'm going to call this one, and let's see. This is my first one. That's going to be 1-8 to represent 1/8 of an inch text. Real simple. And then right here where it says paper text height, I'm going to type 1/8 inches. Okay, and click apply. Okay, so now I've got that particular text size. Now I'm going to make another one. Okay, I'm going to click new again, and now it's giving me a new text style. I think it's doing it annotative. Let me double check to make sure. I'm thinking it's going to make a copy of this one. Maybe I need to click on that first and then click new. And well, it still comes out. It says style 1. I was expecting it to say copy of 1/8 inch text. Let's go ahead and go through with this. Okay, so my next size is 3/16 inch. So 3-16 inch text. Okay, oops, I forgot. I put a character in there that I should not have. Click OK, and we got 3/16 inch text. And we got to change this to make sure it reads 3/16 inch. And then click apply. Okay. So 3/16 inch text, I'm going to go up to 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to click on new again, and I'm going to type 1-4 IN text. That should be IN, not IM. Click OK. Click in the dimension box right here, and we've got 1/4 inch text, and we click apply. Okay, so now we've got those 3 different text sizes. Okay, now in my drafting, I know I'm going to use some dimensions. I'm going to go ahead and make some dimensions as well. Okay, click on annotative, click on new, and this one does say copy of annotative. This one's going to be our 1-8 inch dimension. Click on continue, and then you get this new dialog box where we're going to set some things up to be, fully set up for our drafting. So I'm going to click on symbols and arrows first. I'm going to change the arrow size to 1/8 because that's the first size I'm working with. Okay, so I want my arrow size to be to kind of represent the same size as my text will be. Okay, so that's on 1/8. Then I go to the text. Right here where it says text style standard, click on that and type in 1/8. okay, or not type it in, but select 1/8. Come down here and just select right here where it says aligned with dimension line. Okay. Primary units, click on that box or that tab. Right here it says decimal. We change that to architectural. And then we click OK. All right, so we got the 1/8 inch dimension created. I'm going to click one more. I'm just going to make one more size. Okay, and this one is going to be 1/16 in text. Okay, same thing. We'll get the other dialog box, go to symbols and arrows, make this one read 3/16 text. Text style, we're going to change it to 3/16. Primary unit should be the same. We're good to go. Click OK. Now we got two sizes for our dimensions. Now let's go with our leaders. Okay, our leaders, we're going to do the same thing as we did with our dimensions. Click on annotative, click new, and we're going to call this 1-8 in text. Continue. Okay, leader format, make it 1/8 to match the to be kind of the same as our letters. Click on leader structure. We're going to leave that the same. Click on content, and here is where we change our text style to 1/8 inch text. And click OK. Okay, we got that one done. Now we're going to do one more. And we're going to make this our 3-16 in text. Set that for 3/16. Leader structure, leader format, change that to 3/16. Okay, and close. We just want to set 2 for those because I know we're not going to use anything bigger than 3/16 on the dimensioning or the leaders. Okay, all right, so that's it for setting up a document. You'll get used to that, especially when you go to work somewhere. You're going to set almost every document up the same. And you're probably going to have a couple of templates that someone has made, or you'll make your own templates in AutoCAD. And we did do some of that. I remember we did that at the beginning of the year. You've probably forgotten how to do all the, the template stuff, but don't worry about that right now. I would rather you just go through setting up the documents, a few times before we actually set one up as a permanent template. Okay. So we got everything set up. We're ready to go. And I want to draw a wall frame. Okay, so our wall frame, basically our walls are going to be 8 foot high, but we have a rough height, which isn't the actual height. The actual height comes in a little bit shorter than the rough height, but we're going to set up a rough height of 8 feet 1.5 inches. How do we do that? Okay, well first I'm going to go to a line tool. And I'm going to draw one line across my page, 8 foot long. Okay, so let's draw that 8 feet. Boom. Okay, now as you notice, that line is much bigger than my screen, so I'm just going to zoom out and get that in perspective here. Okay, so now I'm going to draw another line. I'm not going to connect it to that line. I'm going to move it over here to the side a little bit. So the only thing I did is I made sure I'd line it up with that bottom line, because that bottom line represents the floor level of the house. It also represents the bottom edge of that 2x4 sill plate. Okay, but I'm just going to come over to the right a little bit. It doesn't matter how far, and just draw a line, 8 foot dash 1-1/2 inch. Okay, so now I've got 8 foot 1.5 inch line. So that should be where our trusses, or not our trusses, but our joist, our ceiling joists, will come across and go no higher than that line right there. And of course, this line is just a gauge. That's just something we're using as a gauge. So I'm going to draw the topmost line of the wall. This one right here is the bottommost. It represents the bottom edge of the sill plate. So I'm going to turn on that geometry right there at the end, that end point, and also going to turn that one on. That way I can cross right here and know that I've got this line lined up exactly the way I want. And then go ahead and turn on that piece right there. Okay. So this one represents the bottom edge of my sill plate. This one represents the top edge of my double top plate. Okay. And again, all of this is made of 2x4 lumber. With that in place, I'm going to do some offsetting of 1.5 inches. 1.5 inch. Okay. And I'm setting it at 1.5 inch because that is the thickness of a 2x4. Okay. So if I were looking at the thinner side of a 2x4, that would be the thickness. So I'm going to offset this one up 1.5. I'm going to offset this one down 1.5, and then I'm going to offset it again 1.5. That's my double top plate. Okay. Now I'm going to hit the escape button to get out of that tool, and I'm going to start drawing some studs. But first, let's close in the ends of some of these lines. I'm just going to close in the bottom portion of these 3 lines right here. Okay, just the bottom portion, because I know they're not going to change as far as their length is concerned. The top one will change. Okay, so I'm going to leave it open. Okay, close in the bottom. Okay, so now you can see they look more like boards. This is the left edge of one of the studs. Okay, now I'm going to do another offset because that stud has to have a thickness to it. Okay, so I'm going to do an offset of 1.5 inches. Okay, now there's a stud. All right, now I'm going to turn that one stud into an array. Okay, because I have to have more studs going across that wall. Actually, I have to have one every 16 inches on center. And that means that if you measure from the center of one stud to the center of the next stud, it'll come out to 16 inches. So I'm going to select both of those lines that represent that stud. And I'm going to click on the Array tool, which is right up here in the Modify panel. Click on the Array, and now it's already started arraying for me, but I got to change some settings up here. So only because I've done this before, I know exactly how many studs I need, which is going to be 7. If you don't know, then of course just kind of guess. You can always change it after you try it out and it doesn't quite fit. So those are 7 studs, and now here where it says between, I come in and I set it for 16 inches. Well, first I got to make sure it lights up. There we go, 16 inches. Hit the enter button. Point or option keyword required. Well, I don't know what, okay, there we go. Okay, so there's all my studs for the wall. I do have a little problem here with this end stud because it doesn't quite fit. Okay, and the same thing when you're actually building a wall. Sometimes they don't, that end stud doesn't always fit. So what do you do with it? First thing you do is you want to explode your array. So we just made this as an array. So if I select it, you see the whole thing is selected. I don't want to move all the studs. I just want to move one stud. So I go to the Home tab, and I find the Explode button in the Modify panel, right here on the right side of that panel. It looks like a box coming apart. That just exploded my array to where each one of these lines will act as individual entities. So I'm going to select this stud. I'm also going to come over here and click on the Move tool. And then I'm going to grab the stud by this upper right corner on that right side line, and then bring it over to the left and click and line it up with the wall. Okay. Now, with these wall sections, you'll have like a big wall that might be a couple of 100 feet long or whatever. Well, like a typical house, it would probably be about 50 feet long. And these 8-foot sections would actually tie together. So we would have a bunch of different 8-foot sections a wall just like this one. They would sit side by side and they would tie together. So how do they do that? Okay, well, they have like an overlapping board, which is the second top plate up here, the double top plate. And that board, when you're tying these walls together, that board has to be, at least 24 inches overlapping to the next wall. Okay, so at least 24 inches. So I'm going to click on that line, and I'm going to click right here on the center of it because I'm going to move it. All right, now if I click on the center, that means I'm holding on to it. Okay, and I'm going to move it over to the right, and I'm going to type in 24 inches into the keyboard. And it moves that plate 24 inches over to the right. Now, I can go in and close the ends of it. Okay, and with this one, of course, I have to stretch this top line. I'm going to borrow that top line from the bottom plate, stretch it out even with that one, and then put a line down there. Okay, now my reference line right here, I don't need that anymore. I can get rid of it. So simple as you can, there is a wall. Okay, so it's just a plain wall, no doors, no windows. Go ahead and turn this wall in. Go ahead and submit it to Schoology, and I will give you a grade on your wall. And oh yeah, one other thing too, and I just noticed it as I was zooming out, that when I do the array, it kind of defaults to 3 rows. Okay, so I'm going to delete these top 2 rows here. And now we have the wall we need. Okay, so turn that in. The next video, we're going to go over putting a door and a window in this wall.